Welcome to Breakup Cheater, where real lives unravel and truths cut deeper than fiction. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and settle in, because today's story will take you from quiet suspicion to public betrayal, and the cold finality of walking away for good. Claudia Walters had always believed she knew her husband, Daniel, better than anyone. From the first day of their marriage, he seemed like the embodiment of dependability. Steady in his career, consistent in his habits, and unwavering in his morals. Their nightly conversations were familiar and comforting. Recaps of their day, loose plans for the future, shared jokes that came from years of knowing each other's rhythms. But recently something had shifted. When Daniel spoke about work, there was a heaviness in his tone, a guardedness she hadn't heard before. His sentences were shorter, clipped, as though every word had been carefully sifted to avoid revealing too much. At first, Claudia brushed it off as stress, but the change was too consistent to ignore. It began the night Daniel mentioned the arrival of a new department head, a man named Adrian Whitlock. Daniel described him in the kind of measured tone that suggested irritation without outright contempt. Unqualified, promoted through family ties, making impulsive decisions that hurt the team. At first, Claudia's reaction was protective outrage on her husband's behalf. She'd always admired Daniel's work ethic, and hearing about an incompetent superior irritated her deeply. She asked more questions. What Adrian was like in meetings, how he treated his employees, how he carried himself. Daniel's answers were factual but laced with frustration, and the image of Adrian Whitlock began to take shape in Claudia's mind. Over time, this curiosity transformed. It was no longer just about defending Daniel. It was about Adrian himself. She found herself trying to imagine his expression, his mannerisms, the sound of his voice. The turning point came when Claudia stumbled across Adrian's profile on a professional networking site. The photo was unremarkable, a corporate event shot, but something about the way he stood, his confident posture, kept her attention longer than she wanted to admit. She didn't tell Daniel she'd looked him up. From then on, any time Daniel mentioned Adrian, Claudia paid closer attention. It became a quiet fascination. Not romantic, not yet, but personal enough that she began rehearsing in her head how she might act if she met him. That opportunity came sooner than expected. Daniel invited her to a company dinner, a semi-formal event where spouses were welcome. Adrian would be there. Claudia said yes without hesitation, masking her eagerness behind casual agreement. On the night of the dinner, she took extra care getting ready, though she told herself it was just to make a good impression on Daniel's colleagues. When she finally saw Adrian in person, she felt both recognition and surprise. He wasn't exactly like his photos, sharper in presence, more commanding in how he moved through the room. When they were introduced, his handshake was firm, his voice confident but not overbearing. From that moment, Adrian wasn't just Daniel's boss. He was a living presence, and her curiosity had a face. Daniel noticed her attention lingering on Adrian more than on anyone else, though Claudia was careful to keep her interactions light and seemingly innocent. Still, something about the way she leaned into conversations with him didn't sit right with Daniel. The weeks that followed gave her a reason to contact Adrian directly. She decided to plan a surprise birthday gathering for Daniel, and thought it would look more convincing if someone from work helped coordinate. She messaged Adrian, and he responded quickly, agreeing to assist. What began as short logistical exchanges soon drifted into casual chat, jokes about office mishaps, light teasing, and eventually, personal remarks that had nothing to do with the party. The surprise celebration never materialized, but their contact didn't stop. Daniel began noticing other changes. Claudia suddenly interested in attending work functions, asking about company updates, and always more animated when Adrian's name came up. The slow burn of tension came to a head at the company's year-end gala. The room buzzed with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses, but Claudia's eyes scanned for one person. When she found Adrian across the room, their brief smile of recognition felt like an unspoken exchange. At one point, Daniel, Adrian, and Claudia found themselves in the same conversation circle. When Daniel criticized recent poor decisions in the department, Adrian defended himself, and Claudia surprised Daniel by siding with Adrian. Her words carried a warmth and conviction that felt like more than polite diplomacy. Daniel pushed back with specifics about Adrian's failures, and again Claudia defended him, saying change took time and leaders needed support. The people nearby sensed the tension instantly. Then Daniel, unable to hold back, revealed a costly mistake Adrian had made that had hurt the company. Before Adrian could reply, Claudia cut in with a firm statement of support for Adrian's capability and leadership. The air in the room turned heavy. Adrian, with a cool smile, told Daniel that if he didn't like how things were run, the company door was open. Daniel shot back, calling him incompetent. The murmurs around them grew. Finally, Daniel turned to Claudia and told her it was time to go. Her reply, "I'm staying," landed harder than any insult. Daniel walked out alone. Claudia didn't come home that night. The next morning, when she finally returned, Daniel asked where she had been. She said nothing, walking past him to the bedroom. The silence between them stretched over the weekend. On Monday, Daniel went to work ready to resign, unwilling to stay under Adrian's command. But when he reached the director's office, he was told Adrian had been terminated that morning. The reason? At the gala, Adrian had left with Claudia in full view of colleagues. Daniel went home, confronted Claudia, and got a quiet admission of a mistake she couldn't explain. Daniel told her to pack her things and leave. The divorce was swift and cold. Claudia, assuming she still had Adrian, reached out to him, only to be met with disinterest. Over coffee, he told her what happened between them had been nothing more than a fleeting moment, and he wanted no further involvement. Claudia's life unraveled. Friends distanced themselves, family support faded, and she ended up in a modest one-bedroom apartment, working retail to cover rent. Daniel, meanwhile, resigned from the company weeks later, sold most of his belongings, and moved to another city, determined to erase the entire chapter from his life and start over without the shadow of betrayal following him. Betrayal doesn't always explode. Sometimes it creeps in, one look and one conversation at a time, until the damage is beyond repair. If this story kept you hooked, subscribe to Breakup Cheater and turn on notifications so you never miss the next twist. Until next time, stay vigilant.